الحمد لله نحمده تعالى ونشكره ونستعين به ونسترشده ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له أرسل رسوله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره المشركون. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيبنا وقائدنا ومرشدنا وحجتنا وشفيعنا محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين وصحبه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، فإن أصدق الحديث كلام الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم، وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة. عباد الله، أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله وطاعته، وأحثكم على التمسك بهدي قرآنه وسنة نبيه. فقد قال الله جل من قائل: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء، واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم، ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. My dear brothers and sisters, 2 days ago Canadians celebrated Remembrance Day. And it is not remembrance of certain things that should dictate how we observe that day, but rather it is the concept and the practice of remembrance. Remembrance, according to the Quran, is an Islamic practice. Again, I say, some people remember things that can aggravate certain tendencies. Some people remember good things that they like to bring back into their lives. Others, people remember different things. But I would like to start by saying that remembrance as a practice, as a concept, is at the core of our Islamic faith. And the dalil, the proof from the Quran are many ayat that equate remembrance with unconditional benefit for the believer, or the believers in plural. We read in Surah An-Nazi'at, for example, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sorry, it is not An-Nazi'at, in Surah Al-Dhariyat, whereby Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, وَذَكِّرْ فَإِنَّ الذِّكْرَى تَنْفَعُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Look at the equation here, that remembrance is of benefit to the believers. Meaning, O Muhammad, keep repeating the things, keep reminding those who are following you with things so that they may take them and become part and parcel of their behavior. وَذَكِّرْ فَإِنَّ الذِّكْرَى تَنْفَعُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Also, in Surah Abasa, he frowned. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala admonishes Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and tells him, وَمَا يُدْرِيكَ. We know the story that Ibn Maktoum, the blind man, came at a time when Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was busy dealing with the notables of Quraysh. It was a very important meeting, and the blind man did not see who it was, if any. So he came and he wanted to ask a question, and Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam turned to the people he was talking to and with, but Ibn Maktoum kept insisting, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, وَمَا يُدْرِيكَ يَا مُحَمَّدْ لَعَلَّهُ يَزَّكَّى أَوْ يَذَّكَّرُ فَتَنْفَعَهُ الذِّكْرَى. Again, it's the same concept. What do you know about him coming to you? Maybe you will say one or two things that will benefit him, because remembrance is going to benefit people who hear the thing once, twice, three times. So this is another ayah. We also read in سبح اسم ربك الأعلى, whereby Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala فذكر إن نفعت الذكرى سيذكر من يخشى ويتجنبها الأشقى. So we read here also the same thing, فذكر إن نفعت الذكرى. Provided that remembrance will be taken properly, it will be of benefit to the believers. Which means that now, as believers, as Muslims, we really need to keep repeating things. Now people ask, now why do you do khatam of Quran? You just finished it last month, and now you are repeating it, and now you will finish it again, and then you repeat it, because there are real benefits. فَإِنَّ الذِّكْرَى تَنْفَعُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Imagine if one time you did not get a concept, next time when you read it, you will get it. And this is what Islam teaches us. Therefore, on the occasion of Remembrance Day, we too have to uphold and celebrate and practice and tell the world that remembrance resides with us as Muslims. But They want to talk about the role of soldiers in shaping this remembrance. Well, we can talk about soldiers as well in shaping the same remembrance. You'll say, what are you talking about? Alhamdulillah, I came across, thanks to Google, sometimes you really get something and then you can expand and expand. I came across something which is particularly beneficial and important in these days when the Islamophobic rhetoric is flaring up all over the world, and especially in Europe and in North America, where we find the right-wing activists are claiming that Muslims did not contribute anything to our society, meaning to European society, to North American society. Muslims are a burden, and these are quotations. I kept notes and I'm going to use them this time because I do not want to paraphrase things that I want to quote as is, to show that remembrance of what Muslim soldiers contributed in shaping Remembrance Day as it is known in Europe and North America is something that will counter the rhetoric of the Islamophobes. How? In 2012, in the United Kingdom, a foundation was established by a Belgian who lives in Britain, in England. And this foundation is called Forgotten Heroes 1419. The number 14 is the year the First World War started, and 19 is the year that it ended. So this man who founded this, he said the reason that he founded that is he wanted people to keep remembering those fallen soldiers. Then in 2018, 2 years ago, he found in his great-grandfather's diaries, because, you know, it's a huge foundation, and he has so many people working for the foundation, and they go and they continue to go to diaries, to old journals, newspapers, everything they can collect about the war. And he said, I found out in the diaries of my great-grandfather a statement that aroused my interest. His great-grandfather, who was a soldier in World War I, wrote, I was impressed by the enormous respect I have for my Muslim brothers, whereby other soldiers are showing from all continents, while I myself am a very devout Christian. So his great-grandfather was a very devout Christian, yet he had so much respect for the Muslim soldiers. Muslim soldiers, where did they come from? Well, the reality that we need to share is that colonialists who were, taking our countries, India, North Africa, they took young men from those countries and they enrolled them in their armies. And it is mentioned that more than, this is what the founder of this foundation, the Forgotten Heroes 1419, he found that there were more than 2.5 million Muslim soldiers who fought for the Allied forces. As a result, he started a project that's been working for 2 years called the Muslim Experience, to show he is not a Muslim. He is not a Muslim. But because of the impression he got from his grandfather, he wanted to show the world that 2.5 or more than 2.5 Muslim soldiers did a great deal of good, even though I will find that those people, the Muslims, were fighting for a cause that was not their own, but they did lots of goodness. What is the goodness? This is what I want to share. He had a picture, a photograph, showing King George V coming down from his horse, breaking the protocol, and greeting Algerian horsemen, appreciating their contribution. Muslim soldiers. This is one photograph that showed, how much respect even King George V had for those Muslim soldiers. Another photograph that I saw myself, and the caption underneath it said, Moroccan soldiers caring for a German prisoner of war. And then it is written underneath it that the Moroccans were asked why they were doing that, and it is in Villeroy in France, why they were doing that to the German prisoner of war. And their answer was, our Quran and the hadith of our Prophet and examples from his life history make us care for prisoners of wars in a dignified way. And it is written underneath it, this was jaw-dropping for the officers. They didn't believe how, they told them it was da'wah in the making. But these are the things that are kept in the annals of history and nobody wants to know about them. I am not dignifying a war, but I'm so excited that I found this in this Muslim Experience project to show the Europeans and the North Americans that Muslims did contribute with valor, with Islamic values, with the principles being practiced, even though I will find that quotation from the person who forwarded to this experience when he said that these people didn't have to fight, but they were forced by the colonialists to join their armies. And it is mentioned that most of those soldiers came from the Indian subcontinent. And they mentioned names: Huda Dad Khan, Mir Dost, Shah Ahmed Khan. These were 3 individuals who received medals from King George V for their bravery, for what they've done. And each one of them had a story of delaying the progress of the Germans in the field. And it was really something that we need to say on Remembrance Day, that it's not, again, to dignify war, but to say when Muslims fight, they fight with valor and with honor. Another thing that we need to say, out of respect that those people had for the Muslims, it was mentioned that 5 months after the war started in December 1914, soldiers in the British Army were taught the Shahada so that they can recite it if a Muslim soldier falls down and they need to say it if the soldier was unable to say it. That's how much respect they had for them. That was found in the diaries that were collected for this Muslim project. That is, by the way, continuing. Another thing, that priests and rabbis were taught the Islamic janazah rites, just in case they had to perform janazah and there's no imam. Now, I am not going to enter into the fiqhi validity or not validity, but as a thought that they really went that far, showing respect to the Muslims who really fought alongside, that says a lot about how Muslims fared in those wars. And we need to tell the world that this is what happened. Now, a Pashtun soldier could be an Afghani or could be Pakistani. Pashtuns come from Afghanistan or from Pakistan. He wrote about the war. No one who has ever seen the war will forget it to their last day. That's how horrible it was. Now, another quotation I want to share. Captain Roland Grimshaw, who was a British captain, who was, by the way, rated as the most prolific diary writer of everybody in the war. He had diary after diary after diary. What did he write? Look at this. He had a killed person beside him. The killed was Ashraf Khan, one of the nicest fellows. Poor Ashraf Khan, an only son to his mother, and his mother was a widow. I had him carefully put on one side where he would not be trampled upon till I had time to bury him. These are real stories. Remembrance Day, this is remembrance for us. Now, okay, this is the quotation I want to share. The foreword to this project, the Muslim Experience Project, former Chief of Defense Staff in the United Kingdom wrote in an endorsement letter as a foreword for the project. What did he write? He said, all the more reason to honor and remember the selfless and courageous conduct of individuals in a cause that was not obviously their own, talking about the Muslim soldiers. With rising anti-Muslim sentiment today, he wrote, it is important to recognize the scale of their valiant contribution to Europe's history and security. Muslim contributions to the war will, he wrote, will help shatter dialogue that portrays Muslims and immigrants as burdens on Western countries. This is what we really need to share with the world, that Muslims are people of honor. Muslims are people of valor and courage. Muslims contributed a great deal. Now I want to end the first khutbah by something that I got on WhatsApp, and it was an interesting idea whereby a man by the name of Stephen Hodgson had an imagination to encourage people who are living through the pandemic, and every morning they turn on their television to find that the numbers are escalating and they are going at an exponential rate, and people now are saying, that's it, that's the end of the world. He said, don't say that, don't feel that way, because what his idea was. He said, imagine if you were born in the year 1900. Maybe your age. I'm just kidding. That you were born in the year 1900. When you became 14 years old, the First World War started. And it continued until you became 18 years of age. And during that time, 22 million people died. You didn't have time to breathe, and the Spanish flu struck. And it stayed for 2 years. 40 more million people died. You didn't have time to breathe. You were 20, but you became 29, and the Great Depression started. 25% of the entire world became jobless, unemployed. People lost everything. People might have thought that this is the end. People dying, people losing, people becoming, famine struck everywhere in the world. And that stayed until he became 33 years of age. 33 years. So you became 33 years old, and then you had a little bit of time to breathe, but still, in many parts of the world, there were revolutions, there were local wars, there were all kinds of things. But now you are 39 years of age, and the Second World War started. And it continued until you became 45 years old. And during that time, 75 million people died. People thought, that's it, we're not going to make it. And during the war, by the time you became 40, already chicken pox had claimed the lives of more than 300 million people before a vaccine was made to take care of it. And then when you became 45, the war was over, but 5 years, you became 50 years old, and the Korean War started. And it lasted until you became 55 years old. But during that time, 5 million people died. And then it stopped for the Vietnam War to start when you were 55. And it lasted until you became 75 years old. But during that time, 4 million people died during those 20 years. And then so many other things happened, but you made it. And many people made it. So now all we have to do is to really be vigilant during this time. We are going through history like everyone else made history, either the good way or the bad way. We are living on a planet that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala willed we will pass it through during our journey of life. When people use the word die, it is not the end. My brothers and sisters, death is not the end. Death is a continuation towards the real life. The real life. But we are going to make it, inshallah, by doing what we really need to do. We have to understand, and this is where I'm going to be very serious. Brothers, sisters, to the east of us, in the Peel region, in Mississauga and Brampton, the numbers are exploding. Alhamdulillah, in London, we are still taking care of everything very nicely. But let us keep it that way. Let us not, as they are saying, be COVID fatigued. It's true. We are tired of COVID. But we cannot be tired of the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants something to happen, so we will go through it, we will do what is right, and leave the rest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as I said it before. We cannot panic. We cannot just lose our sense of the future and let our children catch a glimpse of how we are feeling, because that will be, I'm seeing it on a daily basis. Children are terrified for no reason. Our children, God willing, will have a future. Absolutely. In Allah's will, they will have a future. And they will look back at us, whether we were wise, brave, courageous, or meek and weak. We don't want to be that. We will show that Muslims show the world, as the stories that I shared on Remembrance Day. So let us remember that. Let us not forget, and let us persevere. Let us do the right thing, and inshallah we will make it. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله العظيم لي ولكم فيا فوز المستغفرين. الحمد لله وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. You know, the slogan of Remembrance Day is, lest we forget. So lest we forget that Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa is ours, and it is for us to always raise awareness that it is not open for negotiation. Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa, which is, nobody can take that fact away from Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa, that it is the first Qibla, the third in status among the masajid after Al-Masjid Al-Haram in Mecca and Al-Masjid Al-Nabawi in Medina. Lest we forget that there are Palestinians in the jails and prisons of the occupiers. Lest we forget that there are people suffering in Yemen and in Libya and in many other parts of the world. Lest we forget, we need to always grab any call where we will remember these things. Tonight, there is a screening of a documentary called Al-Aqsa. I'm not going to even mention how much the cost per car. The same as Muslim Fest. Okay, it's the same thing. But please, in the comfort of your car, at 7 o'clock it will start at the Mustang Drive-In Theater up the street. You know, bring your children. Go, you still can get a ticket. And let us all meet there. And let us raise a little bit of funds. Islamic Relief doesn't want much or doesn't expect much, but let us accept our responsibility to raise funds for Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa, for the people of Gaza, for the different projects that are being done in Palestine, inshallah. So this is one thing. The other thing is, please, brothers, I don't want to make the mistake. I made the mistake in the first khutbah. I saw a brother wearing a transparent mask, and I said, brothers, please, and I kept pointing at that brother because I was worried. So please make sure that your mask always covers your nose. Otherwise, it will not be effective. So please make sure you are safe in this place, and that when you leave, establish at least for 3 months, please. I'm your brother. For the young people, I'm like a father to you. Please, please, we want to stay safe. Establish a niche or a hub or a bubble that you do not pierce. Stay with your immediate family, and that's it. Do not go for visits, do not go for dinners, do not go. Stay put. And inshallah we will be able to overcome the challenge. جزاكم الله خير. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم اغفر لنا ذنوبنا وخطايانا وإسرافنا في أمرنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. اللهم علمنا من ديننا ما جهلنا وذكرنا منه ما نسينا وكن معنا ولا تكن علينا. عباد الله، إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. اذكروا الله العظيم يذكركم وادعوه يستجب لكم ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون. وأقم الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا